Hey guys, this is Post-Production Pie with SOImage.com. In this Lightroom edit, this is going to be part 3 on this little portrait series that we did. So we have this image that was shot by Ryan Phillips out of the UK. And in this image, basically we took it from the original image. And in tutorial 1, we did the basic color correction. In tutorial 2, we did the retouched, the portrait retouch. And now in tutorial 3, we're going to cover how to turn this basically into a vintage image, a vintage style. So let's get started. What we're going to do is we're going to first drop open our split toning panel right here. And a vintage image often has the following two characteristics, which is why we're going to add split toning. Most of the time you have basically amplified yellows in the highlights, and then you have basically amplified blues in the shadows from the fading process. So we're going to add that right now, and then we're going to make adjustments to it as we go. So we just need to add a little bit here just so that we have that basic effect. And you can already see it's kind of like getting that vintage look. The only reason why it's not convincing right now is because it's not faded at all. It's just super high contrast. This almost looks like an editorial look that you might see in a magazine right now. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back up to our tone curve panel. I'm going to leave split toning open actually because we're going to revisit it in a second. What we're going to do right here is we're going to hit linear just so we reset our line completely. I'm going to click on this little click to edit point curve so that it doesn't have these regions. If it has these regions, you're not going to be able to add points just wherever you want. So make sure that you click that so you can actually add your own points. Now we're going to start by basically pulling up the shadows. So what we're going to do is pull up from the bottom, from that very bottom point, and we're going to basically just bring out our shadows. And what this is doing is it's going to lift out the shadows, and then we're going to basically crush the shadow details so you have kind of this gray area in the shadowy areas where the detail's been kind of taken out. We're going to add another point on our shadow to mid-tone contrast and just pull it down a bit. We're going to add another point on our mid-tone contrast and we're going to boost it a bit. Then we're going to pull down our highlights just a little bit. And what this is going to do is just going to kind of soften that skin, the skin highlights a little bit. It's going to kind of just pull all those highlights down just so it's not as dramatic of kind of a little bit of contrast. If you want, you can add a point between the highlights and the mid-tone highlights just to make any fine-tune adjustments. I might add just this point here and just pull it down a little bit to adjust that curve. Not a big deal because that curve is going to bend anyway, but we can do it just to get a little bit more accurate. Okay, so we're going to fine-tune here. I'm going to add a little bit more. Actually, I'm going to pull this down just a little bit to kill a little bit more of those mid-tone shadow details, and then we're going to pull up this shadow side a little bit. Okay, so we kind of have this strange-looking S-shape curve. It's where it's heavily boosted on the shadow side. We flatten it out on the highlight side, and so you have this kind of flat looking image overall, and we're starting to get that really nice faded vintage look. So now what I'm going to do is pull up my basic, and what we're going to do is start adding a little bit more blacks. And you can see now that as we add blacks, all it does is it basically crushes those black areas where the shadow goes completely black. It just removes that detail. So I'm going to add a little bit there. We can add a little bit of contrast. There's a couple things I wanted to show to you guys, which you might see a lot of photographers doing, like kind of these blown out vintage styles. You can get that exact same look just by increasing the brightness at this point. So you get these, a lot of photographers will do these really bright vintage looks, and that's all it is basically they're just adding brightness. I'll let you guys decide on where you guys want to take it to. I think I'll probably go up to about plus 70 on this, so we'll take it up a little bit higher, and we'll leave it right there. It gives us kind of that nice bright vintage look. We can also add just a little bit of contrast just to kind of bring out some of these colors in the hair strands and stuff like that. At this point, I'm not too worried about skin tone color because we've killed a lot of it anyway. So what I'm going to do is, let's actually go to plus 50. What I'm going to do on this side is reduce a little bit of the saturation and boost some of the vibrance. And that's going to serve to kind of pulling down general colors, but then boosting overall vibrance, which is going to kind of do this reverse saturation effect on the image. Alright, if we want, we can play with a little bit more recovery. I think it's fine. I kind of like that really bright look in the skin right there. So that's great right there, guys. So now let's just make some fine-tuning tweaks to our split toning. We can adjust the strength of that highlight color by pulling up or down, or just by adjusting the saturation on this side. So we can adjust the saturation here. I'm just going to go from here so we can kind of adjust the color at the same time as we're doing the saturation. And I like it right about there. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with the shadows. Let's just find a nice little point. If you guys want to add more greens, just take it more towards the green side. If you want more blues and reds, take it towards this side. I like sticking a little bit closer to the blue-green side. So I'm going to take it up to about right There. And we're going to leave it okay there. Now we can adjust our balance of how much we want each effect to show. So we go to if we go to the right side, we're basically showing more of the highlight side. If we go to the left side, we're showing more of the shadows, more of the blues. So I'm going to leave it a little bit more on the highlight side. We'll just go +10 on the highlight side. And that looks great right there, guys. Most of the time with these types of vintage styles, photographers aren't adding like grain and stuff like that. I think it looks great just the way it is. If you guys want to add grain and really push the vintage look, then you guys are welcome to. But right here, it looks really nice. So here is our final vintage image, guys. We're going to add this as a new snapshot. So this is the final vintage effect. Hit OK. So here's what we've done. We've gone from the first tutorial where we took our original image, we did the basic color correction, then we did the retouch color correction, and then we took it and did our final vintage image. Alright guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you with the next one.